Rush. The armored arachnid swings through the air toward the raft prison. The Northeast soldier follows close behind, flying through the air himself using a small jetpack on the back. He flies between the buildings, doing barrel rolls, much to the shock of all the civilians. Dang, does everyone got an Iron Man suit now? Connor hears the civilian ask himself. Connor suddenly stops and hovers in the air for a second as he turns to look at the civilian who said it. The people pull out their phones to record him. What'd you say? Connor asks. I was wondering why everyone got an Iron Man suit now, the civilian says, cupping his hands around his mouth. Come on. This is way more like War Machine, Connor says as he flies off. Annika and Hiro fly next to Connor in the helicopter. He looks to his left and smirks. Here I am, running with the newest superhero team out here. Feels great, he says to himself. Chief, is there any more information we have on Diamondback? Maybe a real name that I can taunt him with? Hoping for something like Archibald, Lance says as he swings through the air. Chief chuckles and shakes his head. Sorry, Lance. His name is Willis, Chief says. Lance detaches from a web as he runs across the roof. Willis? Seriously? That sounds like a character from an 80s sitcom, Lance says as he swings off the roof. Meanwhile, at the raft, Willis Stryker has his old suit back and is currently beating down the guards to get out. Apprehend Stryker! A guard says urgently, but he can't help but to have a scared and shaky tone to his voice. Diamondback grins to himself as a guard runs toward him with a tactical baton ready to hit him. The guard swings the baton, but Diamondback easily sidesteps him before elbowing him in the back of the head, making a crack sound as the guard hits the floor. Another guard rushes him and tries to hold his own, but is quickly punched in the stomach and is sent flying 20 feet backwards, hitting the concrete wall brutally. Just then, another guard appears and unholsters his gun quickly before shooting Diamondback in the stomach. Diamondback barely flinches and shakes his head in disappointment and disbelief as he slowly walks toward the guard. The guard attempts to shoot at him again, but his gun has run out of bullets, and he now has to use his fists. The young guard isn't scared. He knows that he might lose, but he knows he has to try against this villain. Willis' face twists into a sinister grin. We have a brave one here, Diamondback says as he grabs the guard by the throat before single-handedly lifting him up off the ground. Tell me, who are they sending after me? Diamondback asks as the guard grips at his arm. What? The guard asks confusedly. You heard me! Diamondback replies angrily as he slams the guard into a glass cell. You know what I mean. Who's being sent to stop me? Spider-Man? Quake? Captain America, maybe? Diamondback asks as he lowers his eyebrows in question. No. Could it be the Defenders? He asks the clueless guard. What? I have no idea what you're talking about, the guard says. Diamondback looks disappointed and ashamed of the young guard as he continues to hold him in place. You know, Daredevil, Jessica Jones, Iron Fist, Luke Cage, Diamondback says, but his grip tightens when he says the name Luke Cage. I know Iron Fist, the guard says, but gets cut off after he's thrown onto the ground with superior force. Diamondback shakes his head disgustedly. Iron Fist is the least important one, he says as he walks away. After a few minutes, he makes it to the roof of the raft, but notices the rain pouring from the sky. He brushes it off and walks over to the edge where he stares at the city, grinning as a thunderclap. Force 25 arrives at the raft. The armored arachnid detaches his web as he goes into a backflip and lands on the ground. The Northeast soldier flies in and lands beside him, holding his tactical rifle in the air. Aqua and Heatseeker get out of the police helicopter before it flies off, and the four heroes stand beside each other, glaring at Diamondback. Who are y'all? Diamondback yells. The Northeast soldier aims his assault rifle at Diamondback and says, We're Force 25, and I'm here to apprehend you, Diamondback. Diamondback smiles as he falls into a laugh. I just got out of prison. Can't a man enjoy his freedom? I mean, look at how much this place has changed, he says as he points at the city. Yeah, cities have a habit of changing. You should see the Statue of Liberty, Lance says. Diamondback smiles and says, I'll check it out once I send you all to the afterlife, he says as he clenches his fist. What do we do, Metal Spider? Heatseeker asks. Metal Spider looks and glares at Diamondback before saying, We fight. Diamondback runs at the heroes before leaping forward directly at the armored arachnid, who somersaults out of the way before web-zipping at Diamondback in a flying kick. Diamondback quickly turns around and left hooks him, knocking the armored arachnid 12 feet away from him. He grins, but can't stay still for long before he gets hit with a barrage of bullets from the airborne Northeast soldier who's hovering above him. Diamondback glares up at him and grimaces as the Northeast soldier stops shooting to ask Diamondback one thing. Why are you doing this, Willis? He asks. Diamondback takes no time to think of this answer, as if he's planned it for years. I want to kill Luke Cage, then I want to take over, he says. The Northeast soldier looks at him in confusion. What are you talking about, Willis? He asks as he continues to hover in place. Diamondback stands up and clenches his fists. What do you think I mean? I want the Northeast wrapped around my finger. Connor becomes enraged at this and aims his gun at Diamondback before shooting. Diamondback dodges all the shots. Well, I just so happen to know that you will not be taking over anything, Hero says smugly from behind Diamondback. Diamondback slowly turns his head and sees the heat seeker through his peripheral. The two run at each other, closing space quickly. Willis leaps up and tries to land on the heat seeker, but Hero slides under Willis shortly before he hits the ground. Diamondback's fist cracks a piece of the roof, and as he pulls away, he sees the material of the roof crushed under his hand. This gives Diamondback a sort of clarity. I should not be losing to these kids, he says. Heatseeker suddenly runs up behind him and kicks him in the back of the head. Willis feels the hit and stands up throwing a left jab at Heatseeker, but Hero evades the attack, ducking down and while keeping his hands up to block. Diamondback misses his head, and this angers him, as he continues to become more reckless in the fight. Unfortunately for him, this leaves him open for many attacks. Hero takes the opportunity and jumps up, managing to do a triple kick on Diamondback, which sends Willis falling to the ground. But Willis gets up again and charges at Hero. But the Heatseeker is prepared, and he gets an opening before shooting his right hand's blowtorch into the exposed part of Willis' face. Willis grabs the bottom of his face and angrily glares at Hero. Suddenly, the armored arachnid swings in, kicking Willis away from the Heatseeker. Willis goes flying, and the armored arachnid shoots his gold-colored web at Diamondback's body and web zips forward before uppercutting Willis and letting him drop down to the roof of the raft. Lance lands nearby, and as Willis tries to get up, he gets webbed down to the ground rapidly. Aqua nods to Lance as Lance stands up straight, and she clenches her fist before firing a beam of water at Diamondback. Diamondback doesn't stay down. Fighting against the force of the water, he gets up and Annika uses her other hand and continues to spray water on him, but doesn't help. But with quick thinking, Lance pulls out his stun gun and shoots Willis in the back, which makes him seize up. Water and electricity don't mix. Diamondback forces his way through the water and the pain before he suddenly shoots his hand forward, grabbing Aqua's throat before forcing her to the ground. She grabs his arm, trying to pry his hand off her neck. What's a pretty little girl like you doing rolling with this band of creeps? Diamondback says as he plasters a sinister grin on his face. Stopping you. Aqua says as he blasts water into his face, which catches Diamondback off guard, and he stumbles off of her. As Diamondback stands up again and turns his attention back to Aqua, he gets blasted with water again and goes flying backwards. He stands up and suddenly Lance swings down, trying and starting to shoot webs at him to try and time him down. But Diamondback, in a fit of rage, grabs Lance by the arm and throws him on the ground, before noticing Aqua preparing to fire a blast of water at him. He lifts Lance up, who's struggling to get free, and holds him in front of him. Aqua continues to blast water at Diamondback, attempting to try and overwhelm his grip on the armored arachnid. Shoot him! Aqua yells. I can't, I'm out of non-lethal rounds. If I use my normal bullets, it'll eventually break his armor. The Northeast soldier replies as he hovers. The Heatseeker sees this go on and runs toward Diamondback, but Willis is too fast and fully lifts Lance up. While managing to withstand the force of Annika's water blast, he throws Lance to the oncoming Heatseeker and knocks them both to the ground. Connor sees this and looks down at his rifle before flicking the switch to lethal rounds. He deactivates his jets and drops down to the ground with a thud sound, the rain falling hard around them all. Diamondback clenches his fist as Annika readies her hands to prepare an assault of water on Willis. Connor and Annika look at each other. They nod. Let's do it, Annika says aggressively. Connor aims his gun forward and Annika stretches her arms out in front of her as they begin to rain down bullets and water on Willis. However, Willis withstands all of the bullets and all of the water, but the heroes of Force 25 can tell that Diamondback can feel what's being thrown at them. Chief makes his way up the stairs, trying to hurry to get to his team. He busts through the door, the rain continuing to pour down, soaking his clothes. He urgently looks around, seeing the armored arachnid and the Heatseeker stumbling to their feet, while Diamondback moves slowly through the now turned defensive Aqua and the Northeast soldier. Chief knows what he has to do. As Diamondback gets closer and closer, he suddenly feels himself get shot in the back. He flinches and has a stunned face for a second, but instantly hides it, before turning his head around, and there, holding a 12-gauge shotgun, stands Chief Glenn Jackson. Leave them alone, Chief says with a voice of steel. Diamondback turns himself around and grins at the Chief, allowing Connor to slightly lower his gun and for Annika to take a break. She drops down to one knee, exhausted, as Connor kneels next to her, studying her for any injuries. You've exerted yourself. Take a breather, Connor says quietly. Diamondback struts slowly over to Chief Jackson, who keeps the shotgun trained on the villain. These kids, they don't need their daddy here to protect them, he says, as he clasps his arms together behind his back. They don't need my protection. I'm here to help them, Chief says, his voice venomous as he keeps his finger firmly on the trigger. Help them? How noble. You'll be seeing the pearly gates soon, Chief Jackson, Willis says. Lance pushes himself, seeing Chief seemingly preparing to try and take on Diamondback himself. Lance tries to shoot webs at Diamondback, but his webs come out in a disintegrated form, soon realizing that it's the excess of water shot from Aqua. His web shooters can handle water, but not a large amount of it. Connor hears Chief's voice and his head shoots up. No, Chief, he says. Connor attempts to shoot at Diamondback, but he's all out of ammo. Annika is exhausted, and all she can do is watch this villain advance at Chief Jackson. Chief lets off a shot at Stryker, who flinches. This time, the shot actually stings him a little bit, but he chuckles as he looks at Chief with a crazed look in his eye. The Northeast will bow to me, Diamondback says. Suddenly, Willis attempts to backhand Chief, but using the shotgun, Glenn is able to repel the attack. Chief then takes the opening he created and delivers a left hook across the bottom half of Diamondback's face. Force 25 watches this happen. Lance stands up and unholsters his stun guns before beginning to shoot at Willis. However, in Diamondback's rage, the voltage of the stun guns does nothing to him. Lance curses to himself angrily, and Connor sees him and stand up. Diamondback tries again with assaulting Glenn, but gets repelled again before being kicked in the groin by Chief Jackson. He keels over before looking at Chief again and uttering 3 words. You will die, he says before shooting his arm forward at full force. Before Chief can react, his chest is crushed by the force. His lungs are collapsed, and he lays on the ground on the brink of death. No! Annika yells as Connor stares with anger, fear, and sheer disbelief in his eyes. Lance goes numb. He can't believe what he's just seen. His arms drop to his sides, and his hands let go of his stun guns. Hero, after being knocked out, comes to, and blinks his eyes as if trying to determine what he's seeing is real. The force-grown little Chief Jackson, as Diamondback stands over him, grinning menacingly as Chief chokes on his own blood. Suddenly, he gets rammed by Connor, who uses his jetpack for extra force. He gets sent flying several feet. Force 25 run over to Chief Jackson, who lays on the ground, heaving. Lance gets down and starts using tactics taught to him by Natasha to check the Chief's health state. As Annika picks up his hand, holding it tightly with tears in her eyes, Connor stands there, his face stuck, unmoving. Hurry up! Figure out how to save him! Hurry! Annika yells angrily, her voice breaking. Lance, after feeling his pulse, drops his hand and slowly looks up at Annika before retracting his mask and revealing his tear-filled eyes. Annika looks at Lance with her eyes full of confusion and impatience. Watashi wa koreu nagai karai. There's nothing that can be done, Hiro says, kneeling beside Glenn with pain in his eyes. Annika begins to sob uncontrollably as she drops her head down. She has nothing to say. Her emotions at that moment are a raging tsunami. Suddenly, she feels Chief Jackson squeeze her hand in return. Her eyes widen slightly. A slight flicker of hope that Chief may survive flashes across her face. Through the labored wheezes in the blood, he manages to say one final sentence to his kids. The 4 listen intensely. Lance with a frown and teary eyes, Connor with a face that hints at an indescribable feeling of despair, and Hiro with a face of pain. Keep fighting for good. I love you all. And tell my wife that I'm sorry. And with a final sentence, Chief Glenn Jackson dies. Annika sobs, start again. I'm sorry too, she says to her ears. Connor stands in disbelief. The man who had given him a second chance at life and had given him the chance to be the hero that he always had in himself is dead. Ding dong, the pig is dead, Diamondback says as he stands to his feet. Connor's head shoots up and his jetpack activates. Lance looks up and his eyes dart around. He knows what Connor's about to do and doesn't stop him. With astounding speed, the Northeast soldier zips forward and grabs Diamondback before flying him up into the air with full force, throwing him to the ground. The raindrops continue to pelt down as Diamondback lands on the roof, leaving a dent. Connor descends to the roof and sees Diamondback laying there with a grin on his face as he briskly walks up to the murderer. Connor stares down at Willis, and Willis looks up at the sky before shifting his eyes at Connor, who stands there, fuming. I hope that your beloved Chief Jackson had a good relationship with God, because if he did not, then he is burning in the deepest, darkest circle of hell. Shut up! Connor screams at the top of his lungs. Almost coincidentally, the thunder claps as these words leave Connor's mouth. He activates the riot shield on his left arm and holds with his right hand, before repeatedly bringing it down on Willis with full force. Shut up! Shut up! Connor yells, his voice beginning to go hoarse. Despite all his rage and force, these strikes of the riot shield do not kill Willis, but they do injure him badly. Lance watches this as Annika continues to sob, while being comforted by Hiro. Lance wonders if he should intervene, but he doesn't have the mindset to do so. Willis's mouth is now covered in blood. His nose is broken. Even his arms are snapped, and his cheekbones are collapsed. He lays there, struggling to speak. What, kid? Are you going to kill me? A life for a life. Well, go ahead. Kill me, like how your kind do the rest of my people. Willis says with a grin. Connor restrains himself before bringing the shield down again, before grabbing Willis and activating his jetpack. Lance watches this with no words and sees Connor fly Willis off the raft and over the open water. I'm not going to kill you. I will let you die, Connor says coldly, before dropping Willis into the blue water below.